the idea was that physics models are extremely useful in modeling society. So, and it was the idea to offer legal professionals some tools to improve their activity. The author is my daughter, lawyer, and myself. The main contributor expressed her regrets and apologizes for not being here. And now, this is only a small part of the whole research. And it refers to Newtonian mechanics models to assist. And because of the contemporaneity, we restricted to revision of Romania's 2003 constitution. The revision process started on 10th of June and ended on 19th of June with a draft law on revision of constitution. So it was a hard work to do, to apply models to have something pragmatically. And we are not politically applied. This is a scientific contribution. We intend, as I have mentioned, to introduce physics tool to legal practitioners, to public at large, to non-governmental organizations, and we'll be happy if they find themselves with physics models. So we like to introduce these new weapons in their battlefield, physics models. Of course, you are welcome to. Now, some keywords we meet. Newtonian physics models, and from the principles, Newton principles, third principle, action and reaction, first principle, inertia, second principle, proportionality.
Excuse me, Rado, maybe you could use the laser pointer for the, this one first, good for the...
That's more powerful.
Yeah, thank you. No, I will use this one.
Okay.
Conservation principles arrived 2 centuries after Newton principles. So, 17th century, 19th century. Dimensional analysis is also from 17th century. Dimensional homogeneity is closer to dimensional analysis. Error estimation also 17th century. Sociophysics, we are here. Socio-optics a part of it. And so, where I stop to the 19th century. Not closer to our time. So it was physics of objects, mechanical, technical, later on, electrical physics. Later on, information physics, not mentioned here. And the future is decision physics. And above all, it's creation. So the last 3 parts we disregard, and we have to use only physics models based on Newton laws, which are studied by every high school student. So it's something which is familiar to all of us, maybe. Now, what is the basics of our analogy? Human interact with nature, subject to principles of law of natural sciences. These laws are independent of us. They are objective. They do exist without us. But what about society? In society, there are laws, objective laws in sociology and psychology, but also there are what we call law. So, laws generated by humans, which, including institution makes the judicial system. The term is in our official version of Constitution. This judicial system has been developed along the history of mankind, but it has very large variation. Local in what? Local in space, local in time, local in vicinity, local in time horizon, because some think what will be in 100 years, others think what will be in 5 years, for example, when you're using fossil fuels. So, what available resources we have? What are the environmental conditions? What are the technological levels? But more or less, this system, this law system, thinks of improving the functioning of a given society for a shorter or a longer run. So, physics is useful by its model to be applied. I don't stay for the model. There are about 80 slides. I want only to mention that we do not use quantum physics. Quantum physics, because of the specificity of quantum interactions, are adequate to discussing the individual behavior in a social environment. But we have many individuals which are quite similar. We may use the principle of mechanics where a body is made out of molecules. We human individuals are not very different, for example, please.
Could you explain the term socio-optics?
Louder.
Socio-optics. Could you give us a definition?
No,
Social optics. What's the definition for social optics?
social optics is a new word introduced by the same author about 2 years ago at SPIE conference in Portugal, and it is rather quoted. For example, if you go use Google and give a search and write socio-optics, we will find there connected with 4 to 5 million entries. So it is the use of optics knowledge to model social phenomena. This is socio-optics in the intention of the author. Now, let's go further. Some simple models I'd like to introduce here. Do you know what are the Newton principles? First principle is of inertia. No action, no motion. So, status quo ante, or in the draft law for revising Constitution, nemodificat, maintained like the old Constitution, nemodificat. So we show you a charter with the new amendment and the old and the new Constitution. Now, there are two possible approaches in sociophysics. One is to start from a model, physics model, to find where to apply, or start from a social requirement, social necessity, social situation, and try to find a model. Many of our previous articles were starting from physics and finding social phenomena. Now we have a job, engage ourselves to comment amendments of Constitution. So we start from social phenomena and apply physics, but only simple physics models, because the intention was to offer tools to those implied in the revision of Constitution. So the second type of action. So what we use Newton laws, status quo ante, postulate of proportionality, force is equal mass times acceleration, postulate of action and reaction, which in law is postulate of rights and duties, in economy of gain and loss, and so on. Everywhere around us acts this principle. But more models of equilibrium of a body to discuss a little about the relationships between the independent powers in our state organization. And dimension analysis, which is the most advanced tool here. And something about processing of experimental data, because our society are not composed of identical people. We have to measure the variation and to introduce it. And now, these models will be useful. Go on, the laws of mechanics. First law, law of inertia, formulation. So an object at rest, rests at rest without any action. So we will show the draft law commented, and will not mention when status quo ante is mentioned, because nothing new. We have to tell only about it is changed. So I do not be ironical to say, like for newsmen, no news, good news. So we try to make a distinction. Now, the second Newton law, we have to change something to have an action. And there is a proportionality. This is an analytical formula. Of course, it's not a change in direction. We have it's not a change in mass. We have only the vectorial form. If the mass is changed, this is very important that in the state activities, it will be changed to the acceleration. Now some details. If the force is constant, constant also in direction the moment, has a similar relationship. Now, third Newton's law is extremely important. Forces are equal in quantity, opposite, simultaneous, but these characteristics in society have differences, because they are not quite simultaneous, not quite equal, not quite in the same direction, but opposite senses. But this, it works. Now let's go on explaining this. You know from the school. Now, after Newton, it was discovered that these laws are particular theorems from conservation laws, which are more general. So conservation rules have similarity in society. For example, do I have any quantity we want of petroleum? No. It is at a given level of technology finite. So we have a conservation. The principle of conservation, we have to know how to distribute this resource. So a principle of conservation is extremely useful in social phenomena approach. Sorry. Conservation energy, but later conservation of momenta, linear momenta, angular. So, Newton laws are connected with cause and effect. It's the same, no cause, no effect, cause is proportional with the effect, opposite causes generate opposite effects, and so on. Now, let's go, because the relationship of cause and effect are much more taught by sociologists. So, we don't call these laws because they are not resulting now from measuring this is a law. They are not only theorems. In sociology, they are postulates. Part of them we consider unknown because of the large local variation in sociology as compared in physics, because humans are less than molecules in the body versus the society and have a larger variation. So, second postulat is proportionality. Proportionality is in law because about law. Criminal law, international law, it is now a fundamental element in regulatory policy and public administration. For example, you infringe some rule, a penalty, and the penalty proportional with the laws of the state or of the society and so on. But you see, it is a protection role with the third principle. Proportionality in preventing undue invasions of basic rights, because our basic rights are infringed under the argument that it's a fight against terrorism. So, of course, much debate, contiguity is implied everywhere, there, and here in society. And now let's go to postulat of proportionality. Let's use this principle of proportion to discuss something very important. In the new constitution, it was written, amendment, the Romania recognized the role of Orthodox Church and of other religious cults. Other religious cults have protested because they want to be introduced, all of them. So, I have found a quantity to measure in constitution and compare with the situation in the real society. What is Orthodox Church? 90% of believers. What are all other together? 10%. How many letters do you have with Biserica Orthodoxa? 18 letters. How many letters are in the text of the law, the fundamental law, for the other? 48. So, for 10% they have 48 letters. Could they introduce other? It is not possible. No. Let's go other example. This is what I have. So, you see it's 2.5 times 9, about 22 times discriminated the Orthodox Church. Let's go on. This principle is extremely important. What is the situation in the old version of Constitution preserved in the Drive project? There is Title 2, rights and duties. Title 2 has Chapter 2 rights, Chapter 3 duties. How many rights are? 31. How many duties? 4. So, every, the major part of the population thinks we have only rights. But let's go further. What means further? At international level. What is the name of the second judicial document in the world? So United Nations Charter is neutral name, but the second, human rights law. So no human duties. And they think no duty is not necessary to observe duty because there is a name of the right. What is the name of the most important tribunal in Europe. Human rights. So no duties, but the judges there consider that they have to protect mostly human rights. I tell you something. 2 years ago, I was in India. In India, they discussed a law called, by the initiation, in India is a parliament in different levels, so the final, it was law of rights of the citizen, but they finished law of the citizen, because some people there realized that if you do not introduce obligations, India, which is first in corruption, will have the corrupting people only rights, not obligations. So they finally have law of the citizen. Couldn't introduce right and obligation because of electors and so on, next election, but so let's go on. So that's this is conclusion. If it is a disequilibrium between rights and obligations, those having more obligation will think that they are obliged, like in Middle Ages. Now most things they have only rights, not to work, not to learn, not to take care of their health. It is a state obliged to guarantee the health and give all by all free, all treatment free, and so on. So, Human Rights Act, the Court of Human Rights, now concretely Article 2252, there are freedoms and duties only 4. Correctly would be for every right, every duty. So, right to health, obligation to keep to your health and to act to protect your health, self-obligation. If not, the other give me health if I do not move and stay once a day as a computer. Sure. Then the solution is pairs. Later on. That's a typical example using Constitution. During electoral statement campaign to get more votes legally. They are passed laws for budgetary expenses but are covered. And later on what happened? Deficit of state budget, chronic deficit, and so on. And if the government is trying to make correction, it is dropped by the electors. And later on, many provisions in the Constitution, not observing this action and reaction postulate, permit fraud on law. What does it mean? Using your law to infringe other law. All by the same Constitution, and this has not been taken in mind when revising, in the drive of revising the Constitution. So let's go on. Also, there are the procedure, not only the font, or the procedure, because in such procedure, by such procedure, it is lost the essential solution in time of different budget, judgment, and so on. And there is a constitutional provision. No group of individuals represents the country. This applies also to the deputies. Most of them consider we do of our muscle work. They make some laws in contradiction with the present constitution of the United Nations rules, with the European rules. And they make theoretical declaration. It is our wish. It is not so. Later, when we discuss about the equilibrium. It is necessary to analyze the constitutional content, and this tool to be used by the member of the citizen of the Commission of Religion, Civil Society, and so on. Now, Sir Newton is a result of conservation law, and conservation law are very, very important. I'll give you an example. Not only with fossil resources and other. It is written in the first article of the Constitution, Romania is an independent, sovereign, unitary, which has security and so on. But we belong now to European Union. We belong now to North Atlantic Treaty Organization. What happened? We have given to them a part of the independence. We want or not want to say, it is the truth. But what we have, we gained security. It's other position now when common independence is protected by the NATO than before. And this has to put in the first article of Constitution. It is somewhere in Article 68 by, let's go on. No, we have every national day three flags. And here we have 3 flags. Romania, European Union, and NATO flag. And this has to be mentioned from the first article. Because physics principle of conservation and the second principle of proportionality has to mention that, because the major part of Romanian security now is warranted by the NATO and the European Union. So let's go on. About, there is a phrase of something here very important. If we have finite resources, can we have a policy of development? Never. If China, which has now the production of United States, will have the same, but by inhabitants, the fuel resources of the mankind will be exhausted in 5 years. That is. So it is not possible to have development. We have to define new notion in Constitution, redevelopment, re-engineering, and so on. Other intelligent way of development. And we have to consider the long run. Many say, oh, we have a lot of gaining from exploiting some resources in the country. For example, in Russia, Montana, where the minerals there do not contain only gold. They have rare earths. We have, Afghanistan have, China have. Chinese have, not others. So we have to protect not what is seen there, what is what has paid to some politicians to approve. It is what is there for the interest of the future of the country. So all this has to be mentioned in a way or another way in Constitution. So the resolution of all resources, it is necessary to put a limit to the national debt, because the debt means you, the next generation, you have to pay the debt, not us. Because it is a 10 years until it starts, or maybe less, but so. Now, dimensional analysis. It's extremely important, dimensional analysis, because it tells us that we can't compare quantity if they are not of the same nature. Physical nature, psychological nature, sociological nature. And now I have to show you some examples. Oh, sorry. This is story of, so we have every quantity may be expressed as a product of basic quantities to be chosen. They are arbitrary, but not as an ensemble. we may take as a master force as basic, but not both. For every social kind of phenomenon, we have to add a new dimension. And I give you some examples. So this is the dimension that I study even in school. Units well chosen give the same equation as quantities. Physics, so it is the scope was for those not, we have having studied physics, but not very all the time present. But what is the conclusion? Dimension, quantity, operation, addition, subtraction, comparison, the dimensional equations are to be the same. And now an example. This is, what is velocity? Velocity is length upon time. Length of maybe in miles, maybe in meter, time maybe in seconds, but essential, nature is times. And now, other quantities are dimensionless. We can't check by dimension analysis. So conclusion, only the same quantity of the same nature may be compared, equated, and subtracted. And now, let's go over, and I give you an example. An example from the new constitution. It was introduced that the family is defined as the union between a man and a woman. Huge debates. What about homosexuals? And so on. I try to see who is right there. But what is a family? A family, by tradition, has a specific dimension. Procreation. If there is no procreation, it's a terminal society. The next generation doesn't exist. Maybe other civil unions, but it's not the family. So the politicians, the legislators, just a minute, have to define differently heterosexual and unisexual families. It's not the same, not as the same definition. They are different. For example, may I take concediu de maternitate, maternity leave. I do not give birth. So we are different. This has to be understood by politicians. So the family is to have a different definition than the heterosexual than unisexual. And please, louder.
Definitions will have to be used with respect to family. The family will have a dictionary definition. Definitions.
Maybe if you go up front.
Dictionary definitions.
Vorbește
Definitions are very useful.
Excuse me, it is over dictionary.
Yes.
It is,
but the dictionary, the Romanian and every other dictionary defines a family etymologically.
It's not church.
Etymologically.
No church, not family. It is physics. It has a social physics. It has a new dimension. It has to be considered different.
Etymology means the search for truth from Greek. Now, family in Romanian, or a Latin family, came to be derived in Romanian as femeie. By the way, so femeie in Romanian comes from familia, from Latin.
This dimensional difference.
There is no family, says Costică, without a woman. This is the Romanian...
Familia from Latin, femeie in Romanian.
In the dictionary, as origin.
Not for fame. So, let's go other application. So, I'd like you to speak about So application of dimensional analysis, I give you one, I will show you later if time, because we have analyzed each of 160 amendments. Each, and there, which is mentioned there, it was 10 days not having one of them correctly. But it happens we finished it yesterday night. So about reproduction and procreation, what is the dimension, procreation dimension, it is making the difference between the heterosexual and homosexual so-called family. Maybe other word to be introduced, or to be made to be precise, heterosexual family, because a society without procreation is not perennial. It is a terminal generation. I have full respect for the principle of non-discrimination, but non-discrimination is not in the dimensional analysis. The dimensional analysis is exactly the discrimination. So, other ideas. Reasonable times is another dimension. What is a reasonable times? Oh, I have an accident, and it is 5 years, the maximum delay to start the process. It happens that the driver make after 4.5 years another much more important accident, and so started the process of my injury. Now it is something very important about equilibrium. This first in the Constitution, equilibrium is called balance, and all Constitution balance and check, equilibrium of powers. And they are defined in the old Constitution 3 powers: legislative, executive, and judicial. The new Constitution has in the first article 3 powers, but in the second part has a 4th autonomous power. You have missed this. So the financial power of the Romanian National Bank. You have 4 powers. It has to be a contradiction between first part and next part. And now, if we apply a conservation, for example, the conservation of power in a system, what do we have? A system wants to be over the others. Yes. Now, if we have a, let's say this one. No. This is which for point of support. So, what does it mean? This is powers, and they have to be correlated. If one is over the others, the center of mass is here, this physical model, and later on, is outside the basement. That means no one could be over the others, but no one is more important than the center of mass. What is center of mass? Center of mass represents the body. In the Constitution, center of mass represents the chief of the state, which is defined to be the president. So president is that person which has to settle disputes and keep balance between powers. And no one could take some characteristics specific of power from the other powers. If we consider this, we see differently in the Constitution. Now, as regards powers, powers are offered by the people. And who is having the power? And what institution? A referendum has power. Much more than any other powers, because by referendum, that referendum voted half of the population and so on. So, by our Constitution, President has been elected by all population, referendum give solution but sustained by the whole population, and all together, all deputies. So referendum is compulsory. If you do not observe the 2009 conclusions of referendum, that means we infringe this principle of balance. Probably this physical analysis, so the nationalization, they are the same level, and the other powers are less. So I was thinking about or analyzing the Venetian Commission or the European Union, United Nations Commission and so on, will decide that something is not correct. The first things happened that we discussed about the time, the reasonable time and time, let's say, dimensional time succession, that we can't change the rule, like, let's say during the match. So we can't change the quorum during the process of election, and it was by previous decision during 1 year. It was decided by what? Constitutional Court. Constitutional Court, like the presidency, like the High Court of Appeal and Justice, is over the other powers. So, no parliamentary, no minister has the right to infringe Constitution, not the right to judge Constitution. It is to apply. The judge, the constitutionality of a law, is in charge of the Constitutional Court. And the president has the duty to ensure the observation of this relationship. Of course, it's a fight, except from conservation, it's a fight between different powers. But it is the role of the president of the Constitutional Court to maintain a balance. And other forum fora will make intervention. That's equilibrium. I show the model. No. So we need a concordance in every provision, not to be in the chapter 116, in the chapter 6 other. So this is not accepted by logical people, and the legal people are the most logical from social activists. Now, protective of errors are extremely important because some variation are accepted by Constitution, but how large variation? And this has to be put in Constitution. I'll give you an example about auctions. Do you know what it is, auction? Some towns who have some money wants to buy something, make a contract, signs the contract, and in 2 years the price is maybe 10 times more. It is to be introduced in Constitution, something which is in physics. If there is a change not to be larger than half of the difference between the smallest offer here and the next offer. By introducing this in Constitution, this organized theft will be stopped by constitutional provisions. What is here? No, it was stopped. Put down. Now let's see some comments we made for the 160 amendments, the whole text of Constitution. Comentar. Da. Now, in Romania, the official version in English of the new law has not been published. So I am not authorized to use the English version because not existing. Now, I have the Romanian provisions, but my comments are in English. So, from the mentioned analysis, it results that in the first article, Romania is a member of the European Union, not as a 10th article, and secondary, and is a member of the North Atlantic Organization. Because these memberships do guarantee the independence, the sovereignty, indivisibility of our state. So they are intimately connected, and physics shows that. Another important one. What happened?
The second.
It is not. It's not big.
No, it's from, I can change it.
No, it is about the role of Orthodox Church. So, dignity. Dignity. The dignity means here only fundamental rights, but dignity means fundamental duties. My dignity is to observe your rights. It's not only to observe only my rights. So it is my duty. So every time the third principle has to be observed. And now about the powers. There are 3 powers there, and we'll see later that there are 4 powers. When we are serious in Constitution, and we declare we have 3 powers, independent on our 4 powers. So, now, rights. Rights we have shown with only one title, 32 versus 4. And each of them it is commented. Later on, it is not considered the result of referendum. All the draft law has to be revised because this referendum is compulsory until contradicted by another referendum legally organized. And we have no other referendum now here. And the solution, I think, political solution will be, let's go on, let's give up this draft, and we'll see later, after 1 year, what draft of new constitution we'll have. So all the discussion was for nothing. Now that's the other important, but now, there are, from second principle of physics, it is grammar agreement. So, many grammar number agreement. It is the name, plural, verb, singular, and so on. And it has to be checked, not possible to have. But I see the English version because in English is not so strict. Everywhere, only rights, only freedom, but the state is based on obligations too. And so on. So I think I have had my 30 minutes. Thank you. If you want. So it is not a political approach. It's just a scientific one, methodological one to offer tools to, so it's implied in this. Of course, they may be used by other contradicting this conclusion.